Imagine two business owners. The first one wakes up every day chasing one number: revenue. He hires more people this year than last year. He opens new markets. He takes on more customers than his small team can truly serve well. His bank balance grows. But so does his stress. His marriage suffers. His health suffers. He cannot remember his last full weekend off. The second owner runs a much smaller company. Her revenue stays flat for 2 years in a row. On paper, that sounds like failure. But she works 4 days a week. She knows every single customer by name. She has enough money saved to survive a bad year without panic. She sleeps well at night. Which one of these two owners is actually winning at wealth? Most of us have been trained to answer without even thinking. Bigger must mean better. More revenue must mean more success. Growth must be the goal. Paul Jarvis, in his book, Company of One, asks us to stop and question that belief. He shows real founders who chose to stay deliberately small and became more profitable, more stable, and more free because of it. Today, we are going to walk through the core ideas from this book. You will learn why growth should be a tool, not a goal. You will learn how to tell real market demand from empty encouragement. And you will learn how to define enough, so you can finally stop chasing a finish line that keeps moving. If you are building any kind of income, business, or long-term wealth, this changes how you should measure your own success. Let's get into it. The modern business world treats growth almost like a law of nature. A company is expected to earn more this year than it did last year, hire more people, attract more customers, enter more markets, and increase its value. When those numbers rise, the company is described as successful. When they remain stable, people start asking what went wrong. This way of thinking is so common that many business owners never stop to examine it. They assume that once a business begins working, the next logical step is to make it larger. Paul Jarvis challenges this assumption at his foundation. He asks us to consider whether constant expansion is truly necessary or whether it has simply become an unquestioned habit. Growth can be useful, but it should not automatically become the purpose of every business. A company should expand only when expansion directly supports the goals of the people running it and the customers it serves. When growth becomes a goal by itself, it can pull a business away from the very reasons it was created. Many people begin working for themselves because they want greater control over their lives. They want freedom from rigid schedules, unnecessary meetings, difficult managers, and office politics. They want to choose their clients, organize their days, and create work that feels meaningful. Yet after starting a business, they often begin recreating the same system they were trying to escape. They hire employees, take on larger expenses, add layers of management, and accept more responsibilities. Before long, they may have built a company that controls them more completely than their old job ever did. This happens because business owners are frequently taught to measure progress only through expansion. If one person is managing 10 clients, the standard advice is to hire someone and take on 20. If a product is selling well in one market, the next step is assumed to be reaching several new markets. If annual revenue is healthy, the owner is encouraged to double it. Rarely does anyone ask whether the owner already has enough income, enough customers, or enough work. The possibility of remaining at a healthy size is often treated as a lack of ambition. Jarvis argues that this is a dangerous misunderstanding of ambition. Choosing to remain small does not mean refusing to improve. It does not mean settling for poor work, low income, or limited impact. A business can stay small while becoming more skillful, more profitable, more respected, and more valuable to its customers. Improvement and expansion are not the same thing. A company can improve the quality of its product without producing more products. It can deepen relationships with existing customers without constantly chasing new ones. It can raise profit without adding employees or increasing its workload. This distinction is central to the Company of One philosophy. The real question is not whether a business can grow, but whether growth is helping. Every increase in size brings new requirements. More customers may require more support. More employees require management, training, communication, payroll, and administration. Larger offices create rent, maintenance, insurance, and equipment costs. More products introduce additional inventory, marketing updates, and customer questions. Each new layer may increase revenue, but also increases complexity. Complexity can quietly weaken a business. When a company is simple, the owner usually understands how everything works. Decisions can be made quickly. Customers can communicate directly with the person responsible for the product or service. Problem can be identified before it becomes serious. Expenses remain visible, and the business can adjust when circumstances change. As the company expands, these advantages may begin disappearing. The owner may no longer know every customer or understand every part of the operation. Information moves through several people before reaching the person who can make a decision. Small problems become harder to notice. Fixed expenses rise, making the company dependent on maintaining a higher level of revenue. A business that once needed only a few profitable projects to survive may suddenly require constant sales simply to cover its monthly obligations. This is why revenue alone could be a misleading measure of success. A company may bring in a large amount of money while keeping very little of it. Higher sales can create the appearance of progress, but if costs are increasing at the same rate or even faster, the business may be becoming less secure. A smaller company with lower revenue and strong profit can be healthier than a larger company with impressive sales and enormous expenses. Imagine one business earning $1 million a year while spending $950,000 to operate. Its revenue looks impressive, but only $50,000 remain before taxes and unexpected costs. Another business earns $200,000 while spending $70,000. Its revenue is much smaller, yet its owner keeps far more money and carries much less financial pressure. By traditional measurements, the first company appears bigger and therefore more successful. In practical terms, the second may provide greater security, freedom, and control. The cost of growth is not limited to money. It also affects time and attention. Every added responsibility requires mental energy. A business owner who once spent most of the day creating, designing, consulting, or serving clients may eventually spend most of the day managing people and solving administrative problems. The work that originally inspired the business can be replaced by tasks the owner never wanted. This does not mean that hiring employees is always a mistake. It means hiring should solve a real problem rather than satisfy an expectation. Before adding a person, a business owner should ask what will actually improve. Will the new hire create more freedom, increase the quality of the work, or remove an essential limitation? Or will that hire simply make it possible to accept more work, which may then require another employee and even more management? Growth often creates a cycle in which the solution to one problem produces another. More customers require more employees. More employees require more managers. More managers require better systems, additional meetings, and more office space. These costs then require even more customers. The business must continue expanding because it has designed itself in a way that makes stability difficult. It can no longer pause without risking financial trouble. A company at one aims to avoid this trap by questioning growth before committing to it. The owner does not reject every opportunity. Instead, each opportunity is evaluated according to its true cost. The decision is not based only on how much money it might bring. It also considers how much time, complexity, responsibility, and risk it will create. An attractive project may generate significant revenue, but could require months of stressful work, unfamiliar systems, or constant communication with a difficult client. A new product might reach a larger audience, but it may also require customer support, advertising, technical updates, and a team to maintain it. Once these hidden costs are considered, the opportunity may no longer appear as valuable as it did at first. The ability to say no becomes an important business skill. Many entrepreneurs fear turning down work because every opportunity seems like progress. However, accepting everything can lead to scattered attention, weaker service, and exhaustion. A business becomes stronger when it chooses work that fits its purpose and rejects work that creates unnecessary distraction. To make these decisions, the owner must define what enough means. Without a clear definition, there will always be pressure to earn more, serve more customers, and work more hours. The goal keeps moving. Reaching one income level creates a desire for the next. Hiring one employee makes a larger team seem necessary. A bigger office makes another location look like progress. The idea of enough does not require a person to stop caring about money. It means identifying a level of income, stability, and freedom needed to support the life they value. Once that point is understood, business decisions can be made intentionally. Additional growth may still be chosen, but it is no longer automatic for one person. Enough may mean earning a comfortable income while working 4 days a week. For another, it may mean building a small team that handles daily operations so the owner can focus on creative work. Someone else may want a highly profitable solo business with no employees at all. There is no universal number or structure. The important thing is that success is defined personally rather than borrowed from society. This personal definition protects entrepreneurs from comparison in the online business world. It is easy to see someone announcing a larger launch, a bigger team, or a higher revenue figure and feel behind. But those numbers reveal almost nothing about the true condition of the business. They do not show expenses, debt, working hours, stress levels, customer satisfaction, or the owner's quality of life. A person may proudly announce a record sales month while privately struggling with refunds, advertising costs, and an exhausted team. Another owner may quietly run a simple business, work fewer hours, maintain loyal customers, and earn enough to live comfortably. Public attention usually goes to the first story because large numbers sound exciting. Yet the second business may be far more sustainable. Jarvis asks us to look beyond visible size and examine the relationship between the business and the life it creates. A business is not successful merely because it becomes larger. It is successful when it consistently performs its intended purpose. If the purpose is to support the owner financially, serve customers well, and preserve independence, then unnecessary expansion can actually represent failure. The myth of endless growth survives because it is rarely challenged. Investors may want rapid expansion because their return depends on it. Business media prefers dramatic stories about companies that scale quickly. Consultants and service providers often benefit when companies become more complicated, but a self-funded business owner has the ability to choose a different path. They can decide that stable profit is more valuable than impressive revenue. They can remain close to their customers. They can control expenses, protect their schedules, and build slowly. They can focus on doing a smaller number of things exceptionally well. This approach is not effortless. Staying small requires discipline because opportunities will constantly appear. Some will promise money, attention, or status. The owner must be able to separate useful opportunities from those that merely create more work. They must understand their goals clearly enough to resist growth that does not serve them. The central lesson is not that growth is bad. It is that growth should be questioned. Expansion is a tool, not a requirement. It should be used when it makes the business stronger and the owner's life better. When it creates higher costs, reduced freedom, and endless pressure, it may not be progress at all. A company of one is not necessarily a business operated by only one person. The term describes a mindset rather than a specific legal structure or team size. A freelancer working alone can be a company one, but so can a small partnership, a family business, or even a team inside a large organization. The defining characteristic is a deliberate decision to question growth and remain as small, simple, and independent as possible. This type of business begins with a different objective. Instead of asking how large the company could become, the owner asks how good it could become at its current size. Instead of immediately increasing capacity, the business looks for ways to improve efficiency, customer experience, and profitability. Expansion is considered only after the existing operation is working well. The company of one approach is built around autonomy. Autonomy means having meaningful control over what you work on, how you work, and whom you work with. For many entrepreneurs, this control is more valuable than status. A larger company might create public recognition, but it may also reduce the owner's ability to make simple choices. Investors, partners, employees, and major clients can all influence the direction of the business. When a person owns a small, self-funded operation, decisions can remain close to their personal values. They can choose not to work with a company whose behavior they dislike. They can take time away when necessary. They can change a product, adjust a schedule, or reject a trend without asking for approval from several layers of authority. This flexibility is a competitive advantage, especially in uncertain conditions. Large organizations often take time to respond because changes require meetings, approvals, budgets, and coordination. A small operation can recognize a shift and act quickly. If customers begin requesting a different service, a small company can test it without reorganizing an entire department. If an economic downturn reduces demand, it can lower expenses more easily because its fixed costs are limited. Resilience is therefore one of the key qualities of a company of one. The goal is not to create a business that looks powerful during ideal conditions. It is to create one that can continue operating when circumstances become difficult. A resilient business has manageable expenses, useful skills, strong customer relationships, and the ability to adapt. Keeping costs low plays an important role in this resilience. Every permanent expense increases the amount of money the business must earn before it becomes profitable. An expensive office, a large payroll, complicated software subscriptions, and long-term contracts can quickly turn revenue targets into survival requirements. The business loses the ability to slow down because bills continue arriving whether sales are strong or weak. A company of one is careful with fixed expenses. This does not mean refusing to invest in useful tools or talented people. It means understanding the difference between an investment that creates real value and a purchase that merely creates the appearance of growth. A smaller workspace, a flexible contractor, or a simple piece of software may solve the problem just as effectively as a more expensive commitment. The same discipline applies to time. Time is one of the most limited resources in any business, yet it is often treated carelessly. Business owners may spend hours attending meetings, answering unnecessary messages, updating complicated systems, or producing content that does not support their goals. Because these activities appear productive, they are rarely questioned. A company of one evaluates work by its value rather than its appearance. The owner asks whether a task improves a product, helps a customer, increases profit, or strengthens a business. If it does none of these things, it may not deserve attention. Eliminating unnecessary work can create more progress than adding new tasks. This focus allows a small business to compete with much larger companies. It cannot match their budget, staff, or advertising reach, but it can be more personal, responsive, and specialized. Large companies often try to serve broad markets. A small business can concentrate on a specific group of people and understand their needs deeply. Specialization makes it easier to create meaningful value. A general service provider may compete with thousands of others, while a specialist can become the obvious choice for a narrow type of customer. For example, a designer who works with everyone may struggle to stand out. A designer who focuses specifically on packaging for small organic food brands can develop knowledge that general competitors lack. That expertise can lead to better results, stronger referrals, and higher prices. The purpose of specialization is not to make a potential audience as small as possible. It is to become highly useful to the right people. When customers feel that a business understands their exact situation, they are more likely to trust it. Trust reduces a need for aggressive selling. Customers arrive because the business has developed a reputation for solving a particular problem well. Trust is one of the most important assets a small company can build. A large advertising campaign may create visibility, but visibility alone does not guarantee loyalty. Customers remain loyal when a business consistently delivers what it promises, communicates honestly, and treats them with respect. For a company of one, customer relationships are not simply transactions. Existing customers are often more valuable than constantly searching for new ones. They already understand a product, know the quality of the work, and require less persuasion. When they have a positive experience, they may buy again and recommend the business to others. This makes retention more important than endless acquisition. Many companies spend most of their energy attracting new customers while giving limited attention to those they already have. They offer discounts to strangers but provide little reward for loyalty. A company of one can take the opposite approach by making current customers feel valued, listening to their concerns, and continually improving their experience. Strong relationships also provide useful information. A small business can speak directly with customers and learn why they purchased, what problems they still face, and what improvements they would value. This feedback can guide decisions more accurately than assumptions or broad market reports. However, listening to customers does not mean obeying every request. Customers may ask for features or services that would take the business away from its purpose. The owner must understand the difference between useful feedback and distracting demands. The goal is to serve customers well without allowing every individual request to increase complexity. The company of one mindset also requires self-reliance. When a business remains small, the owner cannot depend on a large department to solve every problem. They need a range of skills and the willingness to keep learning. This does not mean becoming an expert in everything. It means understanding enough about the important parts of business to make intelligent decisions. A freelance writer, for example, may also need to understand pricing, contracts, basic accounting, marketing, and customer communication. A product creator may need to learn sales, support, and simple technology. These abilities reduce dependence on others and make the business more adaptable. Self-reliance also strengthens confidence. Confidence does not come from believing that every decision will succeed. It comes from knowing that problems can be handled when they appear. A resilient entrepreneur expects uncertainty. They understand that clients may leave, markets may change, and ideas may fail. Instead of trying to eliminate all risk, they build the ability to respond. This often means starting with small experiments. Rather than investing heavily in an untested product, a company of one creates a basic version and observes how customers respond. Instead of hiring a full team before demand exists, the owner completes the work personally or uses temporary help. Each small test provides information while limiting potential loss. The process allows a business to learn before committing. Many companies fail because they expand based on assumptions. They rent space, purchase inventory, hire staff, and build complex systems before confirming that enough people want what they are selling. When the expected demand does not appear, the expenses remain. Starting small turns uncertainty into a manageable process. The business can release a simple offer, collect feedback, and improve gradually. If the idea does not work, it can be changed or abandoned without threatening the entire company. This is not a sign of weak commitment. It is a way of protecting resources until evidence supports a larger investment. Another important element is personality. Large companies often try to appear polished, neutral, and universally acceptable. Small businesses can be more human. They can communicate in a recognizable voice, share their values, and allow customers to know the people behind the work. This human connection can make a company of one memorable. Customers are not only choosing a product, they may also be choosing the judgment, style, and values of the person creating it. A consultant perspective, a designer's taste, or a writer's voice can become part of the value being offered. That personal connection is difficult for large competitors to copy. They may reproduce features, lower prices, or spend more on marketing, but they cannot easily recreate the trust that forms between a small business and its audience. This is why a company one does not always need to compete through size. It can compete through clarity, usefulness, and genuine relationships. Remaining small also makes it easier to preserve quality. As a business expands, maintaining consistent standards can become difficult. More employees mean more variations in skill and judgment. More customers create pressure to complete work faster. More products divide attention. A small operation can protect its reputation by limiting the amount of work it accepts and giving each customer proper attention. This limitation may appear like a weakness, but it can increase demand when capacity is controlled. The business can focus on delivering excellent results. Strong work leads to referrals, and limited availability can make the service more valuable. Instead of competing by doing more work at lower prices, the business can compete by doing better work and charging appropriately. Pricing is therefore important. A company of one cannot always rely on volume. If the business wants to serve fewer customers, it must create enough value to charge prices that support that model. Low prices may attract more buyers, but they also require more transactions, more support, and more effort. Higher prices must be supported by real value. They may reflect specialized knowledge, a superior experience, dependable service, or a result that saves a customer significant time or money. The goal is not to charge more without reason. It is to avoid underpricing work simply to appear competitive. A well-designed company one creates a balance between value, profit, and lifestyle. the business earns enough to remain secure. Customers receive results worth paying for. The owner maintains control over time and direction. None of these elements should be sacrificed merely to make the company look larger. This balance requires clear boundaries. Without them, clients begin controlling the owner's schedule. Messages arrive at all hours, deadlines become unreasonable, and every request feels urgent. A business designed around personal freedom must establish expectations about availability, communication, revisions, and scope. Boundaries do not damage strong customer relationships. When communicated clearly, they make the service more reliable. Customers know when they will receive a response, what the work includes, and how the process operates. The owner can focus deeply instead of constantly reacting. The Company of One philosophy ultimately asks entrepreneurs to become more intentional. Every part of the business should exist for a reason. Customers should be chosen carefully. Expenses should solve real problems. Growth should improve the operation rather than simply increase its size. Work should support the owner's life instead of consuming it. A business built this way may never become famous. It may not attract investors, open international offices, or appear in major headlines, yet it can provide something more personally valuable: dependable income, meaningful work, strong relationships, adaptability, and control. That is the deeper meaning of becoming a company of one. It is not about isolation or avoiding all help. It is about remaining small enough to stay in control and strong enough to continue. It is about replacing the automatic pursuit of more with a deliberate pursuit of better. Once this mindset is established, business decisions begin changing. The owner no longer asks whether an opportunity will make the company look more impressive. They ask whether it will increase value, strengthen resilience, serve customers, and support the life they are trying to build. That shift forms a foundation for everything that follows. A business that is designed to remain small must also be designed to survive. This is where resilience becomes more important than speed. Many companies focus heavily on rapid growth because fast expansion attracts attention, creates excitement, and can make the business appear successful. But a company that grows quickly is not automatically strong. In fact, rapid growth can make a business more fragile if its expenses, responsibilities, and expectations rise faster than its ability to manage them. A resilient business is one that can continue operating when conditions change. It can adjust when customers spend less, when technology shifts, when a major client leaves, or when the economy becomes uncertain. It does not depend on perfect circumstances. Instead, it is built with enough flexibility to respond when things do not go according to plan. Paul Jarvis emphasizes that resilience often begins with keeping the business simple. Simplicity does not mean avoiding professionalism or refusing to improve. It means reducing unnecessary parts so that the company is easier to understand, manage, and adapt. A business with fewer fixed costs, fewer layers of approval, and fewer complicated systems can change direction more quickly when needed. One of the biggest dangers in business is creating a structure that requires constant growth just to survive. A company may begin with modest expenses, but as it expands, those expenses can become permanent. More employees mean regular salaries. Larger offices create rent and maintenance costs. New departments require software management, training, and administration. These commitments remain even when revenue falls. This creates pressure. The business must keep attracting more customers, launching more products, and increasing sales because slowing down is no longer an option. The company may look successful from the outside, but internally it is operating with little room for error. A temporary decline in demand can quickly become a crisis. A company of one tries to avoid the situation by controlling commitments. The owner considers not only what expense will cost a day, but also how it will affect the business in the future. A new tool, employee, office, or service may be useful, but it must create enough value to justify the added responsibility. This is especially important when deciding whether to hire. Hiring is often presented as a natural sign of progress. Once a business becomes busy, the immediate recommendation is usually to bring in more people, but hiring should not be treated as the only solution to increase demand before adding employees. The owner can examine whether the work itself needs to be simplified. Some tasks may be eliminated, others may be automated. Certain services may no longer be profitable enough to continue. Prices may need to rise. so that the business can serve fewer clients while earning the same amount. The problem may not be a lack of staff. It may be an inefficient system or an offer that requires too much effort for too little return. Jarvis encourages business owners to remain careful about adding complexity too early. Once a company creates a larger structure, reversing that decision can be difficult. Employees depend on their salaries. Customers become accustomed to certain services. Contracts may continue for months or years. Expansion can reduce the owner's ability to experiment because every change affects more people. A small business, by contrast, can make adjustments without causing widespread disruption. It can test a new pricing model, change its services, or pause a product without reorganizing an entire company. That flexibility allows it to learn more quickly and make decisions based on evidence rather than assumptions. Resilience is also connected to self-funding. Many businesses are built with outside investment, which should provide money for hiring, product development, advertising, and rapid expansion. Investment can be helpful in certain situations, but it also changes the purpose of the business. Once investors provide capital, they usually expect significant financial returns. This expectation can create pressure to grow beyond what the founder originally wanted. The business may need to pursue larger markets, increase revenue aggressively, or prepare for a sale. Decisions that once belonged to the founder may now be influenced by investors whose priorities are different. A self-funded business has more control. It may grow more slowly, but it can make decisions based on profitability, customer needs, and the owner's preferred lifestyle. The founder does not need to satisfy people whose main goal is increasing the value of their investment. Bootstrapping, or building with the money the business earns, encourages discipline. When resources are limited, every expense must be considered carefully. The owner cannot rely on a large amount of funding to cover mistakes. Products must solve real problems. Customers must be willing to pay. The business must move toward profitability because it cannot survive on promises of future growth forever. This discipline can make the company stronger. Instead of building features customers may never use, the business focuses on what people are actually purchasing. Instead of spending heavily to appear established, it invests in the parts that directly improve results. The company learns to do more with less, not through exhaustion, but through better priorities. Low overhead is one of the most powerful advantages a small business can maintain. When expenses are manageable, the business does not need enormous revenue to survive. It can endure slower months without panic. The owner can decline unsuitable work because every opportunity is not needed to pay the bills. The company gains the ability to make thoughtful choices. This freedom affects the quality of the work. When a business is desperate for income, it may accept projects that do not fit, reduce prices, or make promises it cannot keep. It may focus on immediate cash instead of long-term reputation. Financial pressure can force the owner into decisions that weaken the company. A business with healthy reserves and low costs can act differently. It can wait for the right client, invest time in improving its work, and make decisions based on strategy rather than fear. This is why profitability and resilience are deeply connected. Profit is not only money for the owner, it creates breathing room. Jarvis also highlights the importance of building financial reserves. A company that spends everything it earns remains vulnerable, even if sales are strong. Unexpected expenses, lost contracts, or changing market conditions can quickly create trouble. Keeping a portion of profit available gives the business time to adjust. Reserves reduce the need for rushed decisions. If a major client leaves, the owner does not have to replace that income immediately with the first available project. There is time to evaluate what happened, improve the offer, and search for a better opportunity. Without reserves, every problem feels like an emergency. Resilience also depends on not relying too heavily on one source of revenue. A small business may earn most of its income from a few clients, which can be efficient, but it becomes risky when one client controls too much of the business. If that relationship ends, the company may lose a large percentage of its income overnight. The solution is not always to attract hundreds of customers. It is to avoid becoming completely dependent on one source. A consultant may work with several strong clients rather than one dominant account. A creator may combine client work with product subscriptions or teaching. A software business may serve enough customers that no single account can threaten an entire operation. diversification must still remain simple. Adding too many income streams can scatter attention and create new complexity. The goal is not to build as many revenue sources as possible. It is to reduce dangerous dependence while staying focused. The same principle applies to skills. A company at one becomes more resilient when the owner can handle the essential parts of the business. This does not require complete mastery of every subject, but the owner should understand the basic functions well enough to make informed decisions. For example, someone may hire an accountant but still understand a company's revenue, expenses, taxes, and cash flow. They may work with a designer, but know what the brand is trying to communicate. They may use marketing support while still understanding why customers buy. Outsourcing should increase efficiency, not create ignorance. When owners understand their businesses, they are less vulnerable to outside changes. If a contractor becomes unavailable, the company does not collapse. If a tool becomes too expensive, the owner can evaluate alternatives. Knowledge creates options, and options create resilience. Adaptability is equally important. A business can remain small without remaining static. Markets change, customer needs evolve, and methods that once worked may become less effective. The company of one mindset is not about protecting the same system forever. It is about staying light enough to change without losing control. This requires paying attention. A resilient owner remains curious about customers, technology competitors, and cultural shifts. They do not follow every trend, but they notice when meaningful changes are happening. They can then test new approaches without committing the entire business. Small experiments are safer than large predictions. Instead of assuming a new product will succeed, the company may offer a limited version to a small group of customers. Instead of rebuilding the entire website, it may test a different message on one page. Instead of hiring a full-time employee, it may work with a contractor on a specific project. Each experiment produces information. If the idea works, the company can continue. If it fails, the cost remains manageable. This approach turns business development into a process of learning rather than gambling. Failure becomes less dangerous when the company stays small. In a large organization, one mistake can affect many employees, customers, and investors. In a simple operation, the same mistake may only require an adjustment. The owner can learn from it without threatening the entire business. This does not mean taking reckless risks. It means structuring decisions so that failure is survivable. The most resilient businesses do not expect to predict everything correctly. They expect uncertainty and build systems that allow them to recover. Another source of resilience is a strong reputation. When customers trust a business, they are more likely to remain loyal during difficult periods. They may be willing to wait, accept changes, or recommend a company to others. Trust creates stability that advertising alone cannot provide. A good reputation is built gradually through consistent behavior. The business delivers what it promises, communicates clearly, admits mistakes, and solves problems fairly. These actions may seem basic, but they are powerful because many companies fail to do them consistently. When something goes wrong, a small business has the opportunity to respond personally. The owner can speak directly with the customer, understand the issue, and take responsibility. This human response can sometimes strengthen the relationship more than a perfect transaction would have. Resilience, then, is not created by one strategy. It comes from a collection of deliberate choices. Low expenses, financial reserves, useful skills, flexible systems, strong relationships, and careful experiments all make the business harder to break. The goal is not to remove every risk. No business can do that. The goal is to create enough control and flexibility that setbacks do not become disasters. A company at one accepts that uncertainty is part of business and prepares accordingly. This philosophy changes how success is measured. Instead of asking only how quickly revenue is growing, the owner asks how well the company could survive a difficult year. Instead of focusing only on expansion, they examine whether the business can continue without constant pressure. Strength is measured by stability and adaptability, not by size alone. A business that lasts is often more valuable than one that grows rapidly and disappears. Longevity allows skills to deepen, relationships to strengthen, and reputation to spread. Over time, a small company can create significant impact without ever becoming large. The ability to endure also protects the owner's personal life. When the business is financially and operationally stable, it creates less anxiety. The owner does not have to live in a permanent state of emergency. Work becomes more predictable, and decisions become clearer. That calmness is not a lack of ambition. It is a result of good design. The business is not constantly racing to survive because it has chosen a structure that does not require endless acceleration. Once the foundation of resilience is in place, the next challenge is deciding whom the business should serve. Many companies assume that success depends on attracting as many customers as possible. More customers appear to mean more sales, greater reach, and higher status. Yet not every customer creates equal value, and serving the wrong people can damage a business even when revenue increases. A company at one does not try to appeal to everyone. It focuses on finding the right customers, people who understand the value of the work, respect the process, and are likely to remain loyal. These relationships are more sustainable than a constant search for strangers. The idea of narrowing the audience may feel risky. Business owners often fear that choosing a specific type of customer will reduce opportunities. They want their message to remain broad so that nobody feels excluded, but a broad message can become weak because it does not speak clearly to anyone. When a business tries to serve every possible customer, it often creates generic products and vague marketing. People may understand what the company sells, but they do not feel that it was designed for them. A more focused business can communicate with greater precision. A clear niche helps customers recognize themselves in the message. They understand that the business knows their problem, their language, and their priorities. This creates trust before the first conversation even begins. For example, a financial consultant could advertise general advice for anyone who wants help with money. That offer is broad but not memorable. If a consultant focuses on helping self-employed creative professionals manage irregular income and taxes, the message becomes more specific. A designer, writer, or photographer may immediately feel that the service was created for their situation. Specialization also improves the quality of the work. When a business repeatedly serves similar customers, it begins noticing patterns. It understands common problems, objections, goals, and mistakes. This knowledge allows a company to solve issues more efficiently and produce better results. The business becomes valuable not only because of what it does, but because of how deeply it understands a customer. That understanding is difficult for general competitors to match. The right customers also require less convincing. When the offer clearly fits their needs, the sales process becomes simpler. The business does not need to use exaggerated promises or constant discounts. Customers can see the connection between a problem and the service being offered. This does not remove the need for marketing, but it changes its purpose. Marketing becomes a way of helping suitable customers find a business. Rather than persuading everyone to buy, the message can be honest and specific because it is directed toward people who are already likely to benefit. Jarvis places great importance on customer relationships because a small business depends on trust more than volume. Large companies may survive poor experiences because they have huge marketing budgets and a constant supply of new buyers. A company at one usually cannot afford to treat customers as replaceable. Each relationship matters. A satisfied customer may return, refer others, provide useful feedback, and strengthen the company's reputation. A disappointed customer can have the opposite effect. Because a business is small, the quality of each interaction becomes part of its marketing. This is why customer service should not be treated as a separate department or a problem that begins after the sale. It should be built into the entire experience. The promises made in marketing, the ease of purchasing, the clarity of communication, the quality of delivery, and the response to problems all shape how the customer feels. A strong relationship begins with realistic expectations. Many businesses create dissatisfaction by promising too much in order to secure the sale. They describe results as faster, easier, or more certain than they really are. This may attract customers in the short term, but it creates pressure and mistrust later. A company at one benefits from honest communication. It explains what the product can do, what the service includes, how long the process will take, and what the customer must contribute. Clear expectations reduce confusion and make successful outcomes more likely. Under-promising does not mean presenting the work as less valuable. It means avoiding claims that cannot be controlled. A consultant can promise a thoughtful process and professional recommendations, but cannot always guarantee a specific financial result. A designer can promise careful work and revisions within an agreed scope, but cannot guarantee that every audience member will respond positively. Trust grows when the business is accurate about what it can deliver. Customers feel safer because they are not being manipulated. This trust often becomes more persuasive than aggressive selling. Listening is another essential part of customer relationships. Many businesses believe they understand customers because they collect demographic information or study market reports. But direct conversations often reveal more useful insights. Customers can explain why they chose a business, what nearly stopped them from buying, what they found confusing, and what result mattered most. Their words can improve the product, the sales message, and the overall experience. However, listening does not mean turning every request into a new feature or service. Customers may suggest changes that only benefit their individual situation. If the business accepts every request, the offer can become complicated and difficult to manage. The owner must look for patterns. When many customers mention the same problem, it may indicate a meaningful opportunity. When one person requests something that does not fit the company's direction, it may be better to say no. Saying no can protect the relationship because it prevents the business from making promises it cannot fulfill well. An honest refusal is often more professional than accepting work outside the company's expertise. The right customers respect this clarity. They understand that specialization has boundaries. In fact, those boundaries can increase confidence because they show that the business knows what it does best. Customer retention is especially valuable for a company of one. Attracting a new customer usually requires time, marketing, education, and trust building. An existing customer already understands the quality of the work. Serving them again is often easier and more profitable. This is why the experience after the first purchase matters. A business should not disappear once payment is received. It can follow up, answer questions, provide guidance, and remain useful. These actions show customers that the relationship is not purely transactional. Repeat business also makes revenue more predictable. A company that must find entirely new customers every month experiences constant pressure. A company with loyal clients or recurring customers can plan more confidently. Predictability supports the calm business model Jarvis describes. It reduces the need for endless promotion and gives the owner more time to focus on quality. Word of mouth is another natural result of strong relationships. People recommend businesses that make them feel understood and well served. These referrals are powerful because they arrive with trust already attached. A recommendation from a friend or colleague is often more persuasive than an advertisement, but referrals cannot be forced. They are earned through consistently positive experiences. A business may politely ask satisfied customers to share their experience, but the real reason people recommend it is that they feel confident attaching their reputation to that recommendation. A small company can strengthen word of mouth by being memorable. This may come from exceptional service, a clear personality, a thoughtful process, or specific area of expertise. Customers need a simple reason to describe the business to others. When a company tries to do too many things, that description becomes difficult. People may like the business, but not know exactly whom to recommend it to. A focused company one is easier to remember. Customers can say, "This is a person who solves a specific problem." Loyalty is not created to manipulation or complicated reward programs alone. It comes from reliability. Customers return when the business continues delivering value without creating unnecessary friction. Reliability includes meeting deadlines, responding clearly, maintaining quality, and handling mistakes fairly. These actions may not seem exciting, but they form a foundation of long-term trust. Mistakes are unavoidable. Even excellent businesses will sometimes misunderstand requests, deliver something late, or produce a result that disappoints the customer. The response to the mistake often matters more than the mistake itself. A defensive company looks for excuses or places blame on the customer. A trustworthy business listens, accepts responsibility where appropriate, and works toward a fair solution. This does not mean agreeing to every demand. It means taking concerns seriously and communicating with respect. Because a company one is close to its customers, it can respond with empathy rather than hiding behind policy. That personal attention becomes a competitive advantage. The relationship between pricing and customer quality is also important. Very low prices can attract people who focus mainly on costs and expect a great deal for little payment. These customers may be more demanding, less loyal, and quicker to leave when they find something cheaper. Higher prices can help attract customers who value expertise and outcomes, but only when a business clearly demonstrates the value being offered. Price should reflect the result, skill, reliability, and experience involved. A company of one often benefits from serving fewer customers at a stronger price rather than many customers at a weak margin. This allows more attention to each relationship and reduces operational pressure. Fewer customers do create concentration risk. So the business must maintain balance. It should not depend completely on one client, but also does not need a massive audience. A healthy customer base is large enough to provide stability and small enough to serve well. This balance is different for every business. A consultant may need only a handful of long-term clients. A digital product creator may need hundreds or thousands of customers. A subscription business may rely on recurring payments from a moderate group. The principle remains the same. Quality of fit matters more than the largest possible number. The right customers also shape the emotional experience of running the business. Working with respectful, suitable clients can make the work satisfying. Serving people who constantly question the value, ignore boundaries, or demand exceptions can make even profitable work exhausting. Revenue alone does not reveal this difference. Two clients may pay the same amount while creating completely different levels of stress. A company at one considers emotional and operational costs when evaluating relationships. This is why the owner must be willing to end relationships that repeatedly damage the business. Letting go of a paying customer can feel uncomfortable, especially for a small company. But keeping the wrong customer may consume time that could be used to serve better ones. Ending a relationship should be handled professionally. The owner can explain that the fit is no longer right, complete existing commitments where possible, and provide a clear transition. The purpose is not conflict. It is protecting the health of the business. The strongest customer relationships are based on mutual respect. The business respects the customer's time, money, and goals. The customer respects the company's expertise, process, and boundaries. This balance allows both sides to benefit. Jarvis's broader message is that a successful small business does not need everyone. It needs enough of the right people. The goal is not maximum attention, but meaningful connection. When customers are well matched, the business can remain focused. Products become easier to improve because the audience is clear. Marketing becomes more precise. Service becomes more personal. Referrals become more relevant. The entire company becomes simpler. This customer-centered simplicity supports resilience. Loyal customers provide repeat revenue, honest feedback, and stability during uncertain periods. They are not simply buyers. They become part of the business's long-term strength. A calm company is not built by constantly chasing strangers. It is built by creating enough value that the right people choose to stay. That approach requires patience because trust develops over time, but the result is more sustainable than temporary attention. The essential lesson is that business growth should not be measured only by how many customers arrive. It should also be measured by how well those customers are served, how long they remain, and whether the relationship supports both sides. A company at once succeeds when it becomes deeply useful to a specific group of people. It does not need to dominate an entire market. It needs to understand its customers better, communicate more honestly, and deliver value more consistently than alternatives. When that happens, the business can remain small without remaining limited. Its reputation can spread, its income can become stable, and its impact can grow even if its structure does not. The company becomes stronger not because it serves everyone, but because it serves the right people exceptionally well. Once a business has identified the right customers, the next challenge is finding a way to become genuinely useful to them. Paul Jarvis argues that a small company does not need the largest advertising budget or the loudest marketing campaign to compete. It needs clarity, trust, and the ability to create value that customers can recognize. For a company of one, marketing is not mainly about pushing people toward a sale. It is about demonstrating knowledge, solving problems, and helping the right audience understand why the business matters. This begins with teaching. When a business openly shares what it knows, it gives potential customers a chance to experience its thinking before purchasing anything. A consultant might explain common mistakes in their industry. A designer might show how certain visual decisions affect customer trust. A software company might publish practical guides that help people solve part of a problem. This useful information does more than attract attention. It shows competence. Teaching creates credibility because it allows the audience to judge the quality of the business directly, instead of simply claiming to be experienced. The owner demonstrates that experience through clear explanations and useful ideas. People begin to trust a company because they have already benefited from its knowledge. This approach is especially powerful for a small business. Large companies may rely on brand recognition, paid advertising, and sales teams. A company of one may not have those resources, but it can communicate with greater personality and depth. It can explain why it works in a certain way, what it has learned, and how it thinks about customer problems. The goal is not to give away every part of the service for free. It is to remove uncertainty. Customers often hesitate because they do not know whether a business understands them or can produce the result they need. Useful content reduces that fear. A potential customer who reads several thoughtful articles, watches helpful videos, or receives valuable advice through a newsletter begins to see the business as reliable. When the time comes to make a purchase, the relationship does not begin from zero. Trust has already been forming. Jarvis emphasizes that this type of marketing works best when it is based on service rather than self-promotion. Many businesses create content that constantly talks about themselves. They announce awards, describe features, and repeat claims about being the best. But customers are usually more interested in their own problems than in the company's achievements. Effective teaching starts with the customer situation. It answers questions, reduces confusion, and helps people make better decisions. The business becomes visible by being useful. This does not mean the owner must become a full-time content creator. The purpose of content is to support the business, not create another exhausting obligation. A company of one should choose a form of communication that fits its skills and audience. A strong monthly article may be more valuable than daily posts produced without care. A practical email sent regularly may create more trust than try to appear on every social platform. Consistency matters, but sustainability matters more. If a marketing method requires so much time that it weakens the actual product or service, it is not serving the business. The owner should focus on the smallest effective way to remain helpful and visible. A clear point of view also makes the business more memorable. Teaching is not only about repeating general information that customers could find anywhere. It is about explaining ideas through the experience and judgment of the person behind the business. Two companies may offer the same service, but their perspectives could be very different. One may focus on speed, while another focuses on careful craftsmanship. One may serve large corporations, while another specializes in independent professionals. One may believe in complexity and customization, while another believes that simple solutions work better. Expressing these beliefs helps customers decide whether the business is right for them. Some people may disagree and leave, but that is not necessarily a loss. A company of one does not need universal approval. It needs alignment with the right audience. Try to offend nobody often produces weak communication. When a company removes every strong opinion, its message begins to sound like everyone else's. A clear perspective creates distinction. This is closely connected to personal branding. Personal branding is sometimes misunderstood as creating an artificial public personality. Jarvis's approach is more practical. It is about allowing the values, expertise, and way of thinking behind a business to become visible. Customers often choose small companies because they want a human relationship. They want to know who is responsible for the work and what that person stands for. Showing personality can make the business easier to trust because it feels accountable. However, authenticity does not require sharing every private detail. The owner can decide what is relevant. They may share lessons from their work, explain their process, or discuss the principles guiding their decisions. The goal is not constant personal exposure. It is honest communication. A strong reputation grows when the business says something useful and then behaves consistently with that message. If a company teaches simplicity but delivers a confusing process, trust disappears. If it promotes honest service but hides fees, the brand becomes meaningless. Credibility depends on alignment between words and actions. This is why authority cannot be created through content alone. It must be supported by results. Teaching may attract attention, but the quality of the product or service determines whether people remain. A company at one should therefore avoid using marketing to cover weaknesses in the offer. If customers are repeatedly disappointed, the answer is not louder promotion. The business must improve what it delivers. Value creation begins with understanding the outcome customers actually want. People rarely purchase a service simply because they admire the process. They buy because they want a problem solved or a result achieved. A customer does not hire an accountant because they enjoy accounting reports. They want financial clarity, fewer errors, and confidence that taxes are being handled correctly. A customer does not buy design work only for attractive images. They may want their business to appear trustworthy, increase sales, or communicate more clearly. The company at one becomes more valuable when it connects its work to these deeper outcomes. This understanding also improves pricing. When the business focuses only on hours or tasks, customers compare it with cheaper alternatives. When it clearly explains the value of the result, price becomes part of a larger decision. This does not justify unrealistic promises. The business should remain honest about what it can influence, but it should understand and communicate why the work matters. Value can also come from reducing effort for the customer. A smooth process, fast communication, clear instructions, and reliable delivery can be as important as the final product. Customers remember how easy or difficult it was to work with a company. A small business has an advantage here because it can design the experience carefully. It does not need to follow a complicated system. Created for thousands of customers, it can remove unnecessary steps and make the relationship feel direct. The most effective marketing often grows naturally from excellent service. Satisfied customers talk about their experience, share the company's work, and return when they need help again. The business does not need to separate marketing completely from delivery. Every customer interaction can strengthen or weaken its reputation. Jarvis's broader point is that a small business competes through usefulness rather than volume. It does not need to be seen by everyone. It needs to be trusted by enough of the right people. Once attention and trust have been earned, the business must protect the time and focus required to deliver value consistently. This leads to the importance of system simplicity and productivity. Many entrepreneurs begin their businesses with the hope of gaining control over their schedules. Yet they quickly become overwhelmed by messages, administrative work, meeting revisions, and repetitive tasks. They may technically own the business, but their time is still controlled by constant demands. A company at one must be careful not to confuse activity with progress. A full calendar can create the feeling of importance, but many tasks do not directly support customers or profit. Productivity is not about doing the largest number of things. It is about identifying few actions that create meaningful results and giving them proper attention. This begins by examining repeated work. If the same task appears every week, the owner should ask whether it can be simplified, documented, automated, or removed. For example, if customers repeatedly ask the same questions, the business can create a clear guide. If project information is collected through long email exchanges, a structured form may make the process easier. If invoices are prepared manually, software can reduce the time involved. Small improvements can recover hours every month. Automation is useful when it removes routine work without damaging the customer experience. It can schedule appointments, send reminders, process payments, organize files, or deliver standard information. These systems allow the owner to focus on work that requires judgment, creativity, and personal attention. However, automation should not be added simply because a tool is available. Complicated systems can create their own maintenance problems. The goal is not to automate everything. It is to remove unnecessary repetition. A company at one should prefer simple tools that solve clear problems. Business owners sometimes build elaborate systems before they truly need them. They subscribe to multiple platforms, create complex dashboards, and spend more time managing the system than doing the work. The best system is often the one that is easy to understand and reliable enough to use consistently. A basic process that works is more valuable than an advanced process that is constantly abandoned. Documentation also supports efficiency. When a business records how important tasks are completed, it reduces a need to solve the same problem repeatedly. A checklist template or standard operating process can make work faster and more consistent. Even a solo business benefits from documentation. The owner may forget details, become busy, or eventually ask a contractor to help. Clear processes make the company less dependent on memory. Templates are especially useful for repeated communication. Proposals, onboarding messages, project updates, and customer instructions often contain similar information. Creating a strong standard version saves time, while still allowing personal adjustments. The purpose is not to make communication robotic. It is to avoid rewriting basic information from the beginning every time. The owner can then spend more attention on the parts that genuinely need customization. Boundaries are another essential productivity system. Without clear limits, customer requests can expand beyond the original agreement. Projects become longer, revisions multiply, and communication enters every part of the day. A company of one should define what is included when communication happens and how changes are handled. These boundaries protect both the business and the customer. They reduce uncertainty and make the process more predictable. Scope is especially important. When a project begins without a clear definition, customers and business owners may imagine different outcomes. The customer may expect unlimited changes, while the business expects a fixed amount of work. This conflict can be prevented through clear agreements. Protecting focus also requires controlling interruptions. Creative and strategic work often needs uninterrupted time. Constant notifications, messages, and meetings break concentration and increase the amount of time each task requires. A productive owner may schedule specific periods for communication instead of responding immediately to everything. This does not mean ignoring customers. It means creating a reliable response rhythm that allows deep work to continue. Jarvis encourages the idea that quick replies are not always the same as good service. A customer usually values clear, thoughtful communication more than instant answer that interrupts important work. Setting expectations about response times creates space for both. Meetings should also be questioned. Many meetings exist because they have become habitual, not because they are necessary. A short written update may replace a long call. A clear decision may remove the need for repeated discussion. When a meeting is required, it should have a purpose. The people involved should know what needs to be decided or understood. A company of one cannot afford to treat time as unlimited. Elimination is often more powerful than optimization. Entrepreneurs frequently look for ways to complete tasks faster, when the better question is whether the task should exist at all. A report nobody reads, a service customers rarely value, or a marketing platform that produces no meaningful results may not need improvement. It may need to be removed. This requires honest evaluation. Business owners can become attached to activities because they have already invested time in them, but continuing unproductive work only increases the cost. A simple business remains strong by regularly removing what no longer serves its goals. Productivity also involves protecting energy. Not every hour has the same quality. Some work requires high concentration, while other tasks can be completed with less mental effort. The owner can arrange the day around these differences. Important creative or analytical work may be scheduled when energy is strongest. Administrative tasks can be grouped together later. This reduces the cost of constantly switching between different types of thinking. Grouping similar tasks, sometimes called batching, can make a small business more efficient. Instead of handling invoices throughout the week, they can be processed at one time. Instead of checking messages continuously, the owner can respond during set periods. The benefit comes from reducing transition time. A calm business does not attempt to maximize every minute. Rest and empty space are also useful. Constant work reduces judgment and creativity. When the owner is exhausted, small problems feel larger and important decisions become harder. A company of one should create a workload that can be sustained. There may be busy periods, but permanent overwork is a sign that the system is poorly designed. This connects back to the meaning of enough. If the business continually accepts more work than it can handle, no productivity system will solve the deeper problem. Efficiency should create more freedom, not merely make it possible to overload the schedule further. The owner must decide how the time saved through better systems will be used. It may support higher quality work, learning, family, rest, or personal interests. Without intention, every save hour will simply be filled with another task. Jarvis's philosophy treats time as part profit. A business that earns more money but requires every available hour may be less successful than one that earns enough while preserving control over life. This is why the company at one model does not measure productivity only by output. It considers whether the work is producing useful results without creating unnecessary strain. Simple systems make this possible. They reduce repeated decisions, prevent avoidable mistakes, clarify communication, and protect concentration. Over time, these improvements allow a small business to perform at a level that might otherwise require a much larger team. The advantage does not come from working at an impossible pace. It comes from removing waste. The business focuses on work customers value and reduces everything around it. When teaching builds trust and systems protect time, a company of one can create significant value without constantly increasing its size. It can become more respected, more profitable, and more effective while remaining simple. That is the deeper connection between authority and productivity. The business earns attention by being useful, then preserves its ability to remain useful through disciplined operations. It does not chase visibility at the cost of quality. It does not add systems that create more work than they remove. The result is a company that can serve customers well without overwhelming the person behind it. It grows stronger through clarity, reputation, and efficiency rather than through endless expansion. A company of one does not reject growth completely. It redefines what healthy growth should look like. Instead of assuming that improvement requires more employees, more offices, more customers, or a large organization, Paul Jarvis encourages business owners to explore ways of becoming better without becoming bigger. This distinction matters because size is only one form of growth. A business can improve its profit, reputation, skills, products, systems, and customer experience while maintaining the same basic structure. In many cases, this kind of growth is more valuable because it strengthens a company without adding unnecessary pressure. One of the clearest ways to grow without becoming larger is to improve profitability. Revenue may rise when a company accepts more work, but additional work often brings additional expenses. Profit can sometimes increase more effectively by improving the value of existing offers, reducing waste, or charging prices that accurately reflect the result being delivered. A business owner may discover that one service requires a great deal of time but produces very little profit. Another service may be easier to deliver, more valuable to customers, and financially stronger. Instead of increasing the total workload, the owner can shift attention toward a more effective offer. This requires examining the business honestly. Not every product or service deserves to continue simply because it has existed for a long time. Some offers may attract the wrong customers. Others may create excessive support demands or require too much customization. A company at one regularly evaluates whether each part of the business still supports its goals. Removing a weak offer can be a form of growth because it improves focus. The company may sell fewer things but become much better at delivering what remains. Customers receive clearer choices, marketing becomes simpler, and the owner can direct more energy toward quality. Raising prices can also support healthier growth, but it must be approached carefully. The purpose is not to charge more merely because the owner wants higher income. Price should be connected to the value being provided, the skill required, the reliability of a service, and the outcome the customer receives. Many small businesses underprice their work because they fear losing customers. They assume that lower prices make them more competitive, but low prices often require high volume, which increases workload and reduces the time available for each customer. When a business improves its expertise and results, higher prices can allow it to serve fewer people more carefully. This creates room for better communication, stronger work, and a calmer schedule. The customer pays more, but also receives a more focused experience. Pricing also communicates positioning. A very low price may suggest that the service is basic or interchangeable. A higher price can signal specialization, although it must always be supported by evidence. Strong examples, clear processes, customer results, and dependable behavior help justify the difference. Growth can also come through improving the customer experience. A product does not always need additional features to become more valuable. Sometimes customers benefit more from clearer instructions, easier purchasing, faster onboarding, or better support. Businesses often assume that innovation means adding more. They create new options, extra features, and complicated packages. Yet each addition can increase confusion. Customers may struggle to understand what to choose or how to use what they purchased. A company of one looks for improvements that reduce friction. It asks where customers become confused, delayed, or frustrated. Solving those points can create more value than developing an entirely new offer. For example, a consultant may realize that clients feel uncertain during the first week of a project. Instead of adding another service, the consultant can create a clear onboarding process that explains the schedule, responsibilities, and expected results. This relatively small change can strengthen trust and reduce unnecessary communication. A software creator may learn that customers are not leaving because the product lacks features, but because they do not understand how to begin. Better tutorials and simpler setup may improve retention more than technical expansion. The idea is to improve depth rather than width. A business grows deeper when it understands its customers more clearly, solves their problems more effectively, and creates a stronger relationship. It grows wider when it continually adds new audiences, products, and markets. Wider growth can work, but it usually adds more complexity. Skill development is another form of growth that does not require a larger company. The owner can become better at the central work, improve communication, understand finances more clearly, or learn how to make stronger decisions. These improvements can increase both quality and efficiency. A more experienced designer may produce better work in less time. A consultant who learns to identify the real problem earlier may shorten projects while improving results. A business owner who understands pricing can protect profit without increasing workload. Learning should remain connected to practical needs. Entrepreneurs can easily spend time collecting information without applying it. Courses, books, and conferences may feel productive, but knowledge only becomes valuable when it changes behavior or improves results. A company of one learns deliberately. The owner identifies a limitation, finds the knowledge needed to address it, and applies what is useful. This keeps learning focused rather than turning it into another form of busy work. Reputation can grow while the organization stays small. As a business consistently produces strong work and treats customers well, more people begin recognizing its value. This can create demand beyond the company's available capacity. The traditional response will be to hire quickly and accept more work. Jarvis suggests that another response is possible. The business can become more selective, improve pricing, create waiting lists, or develop products that serve people without requiring the owner's direct time. This allows demand to strengthen the business instead of forcing it into expansion. Popularity does not create an obligation to serve everyone. Growth may also involve creating leverage. Leverage means producing value that is not completely tied to each additional hour of work. A consultant may turn repeated advice into a guide or course. A designer may create templates. A writer may produce a book or subscription. A software developer may build a tool that customers can use independently. Leverage can increase income without requiring a company to grow in the traditional sense. However, leverage products are not effortless. They require development, marketing, maintenance, and customer support. The business must evaluate whether the opportunity fits its strengths and goals. The company of one mindset avoids creating products merely because passive income sounds attractive. A new offer should solve a real customer problem and remain manageable. Otherwise, it becomes another source of complexity. Healthy growth is therefore intentional improvement. It is not measured by the largest possible number. It is measured by whether the business becomes more useful, profitable, stable, and aligned with the owner's life. Once this perspective is understood, the process of starting something new also changes. Many people delay launching a business because they believe they need a perfect plan, a complete product, professional branding, advanced systems, and enough money to prepare for every possibility. Jarvis argues that this desire for certainty can become a form of avoidance. Business ideas cannot be fully tested through planning alone. The most useful information usually comes from offering something to real people and observing what happens. Starting small reduces the risk of being wrong. Instead of spending months or years building a complete business based on assumptions, the founder can create the simplest version that demonstrates the idea. This version should be useful enough for customers to evaluate, but limited enough to change easily. The goal is not to release careless or low-quality work. It is to avoid building features, systems, and expenses before confirming that customers want the central result. A person who wants to start consulting business does not need a large office, a complicated website, or a full team. They may begin by working with a small number of clients and learning which problems are most valuable to solve. Someone planning a digital product may first offer a solution manually. This provides direct contact with customers and reveals what they actually need. Once patterns become clear, parts of the process can be turned into a product. This approach is often called starting with a minimum viable offer. The important word is viable. The first version must still create real value. It should not be so incomplete that customers cannot judge whether the idea works. Starting small makes feedback more useful. When a business releases too many features at once, it becomes difficult to know which part customers value. A simpler offer creates clearer information. People either care about the core solution or they do not. Feedback should be observed through behavior as well as words. People may say that an idea sounds interesting, but the stronger signal is whether they're willing to pay, use it, return to it, or recommend it. Entrepreneurs sometimes spend months collecting encouraging opinions from friends who are not actual customers. These conversations feel positive but may not represent real demand. A company of one looks for evidence in the market. Payment is especially valuable evidence because it requires commitment. A customer who spends money is demonstrating that the problem matters enough to act. This does not mean every early idea must be highly profitable, but the business should eventually prove that people value the solution financially. Starting as a side business can reduce pressure. A person may continue earning through employment or existing client work while testing a new idea. This allows them to learn without expecting the new business to provide complete financial support immediately. A side business should still be treated seriously. Limited time makes focus essential. The founder cannot pursue every idea. They must identify the smallest action that produces useful information. This may mean speaking with potential customers, offering a paid test service, or releasing a basic version to a narrow audience. These actions are more informative than endlessly refining a logo or business name. Perfectionism often appears responsible, but it can hide fear. As long as the product remains unfinished, it cannot be rejected. Launching creates the possibility that customers may not care, and that possibility can be uncomfortable. Jarvis treats this discomfort as part of learning. A failed test is not the same as a failed person. It simply provides information about the offer, audience, timing, or message. When an experiment does not work, the business can examine why. Perhaps the problem is not important enough. The target customer may be wrong. The benefit may not be clear. The price may not match the value, but a market may already have a better solution. Because the experiment was small, these lessons do not require major financial loss. The founder can adjust and test again. Iteration is a process of improving through repeated learning. The first version is rarely the final one. Customers reveal unexpected needs, and real use exposes weaknesses that planning cannot predict. A company of one uses iteration to reduce uncertainty gradually. It does not attempt to remove every risk before acting. Instead, it takes a manageable step, studies the result, and decides what to do next. This approach protects independence. When a founder spends heavily before validating the idea, they may become dependent on investors, loans, or rapid sales. Small tests allow the company to develop through customer revenue and informed decisions. It also prevents emotional attachment to complicated plans. The more time and money people invest in an idea, the harder it becomes to admit that it is not working. Starting small makes it easier to change direction. A calm business is not built through one dramatic leap. It is usually built through many practical decisions. The owner learns what customers value, improves the offer, develops a reputation, and reinvests carefully. Patience is important because meaningful businesses often take time to become stable. The stories that receive attention tend to focus on rapid success, but they rarely show the preparation, previous experience, or uncertainty behind the result. Jarvis's approach removes the need to perform success before the business is ready. The founder does not need to appear larger, more established, or more popular in reality. They can focus on becoming useful. As the business develops, The owner must also strengthen the personal qualities needed for long-term independence. A company at one depends heavily on judgment because there may be no manager, investor, or a large team making decisions. Independence is not simply the absence of a boss. It is a willingness to accept responsibility. The owner must choose priorities, manage money, communicate boundaries, and handle uncertainty. This can feel freeing, but it can also be difficult. There is no guarantee that every decision will be correct. The business owner must learn to act without complete information. Confidence develops through experience rather than certainty. Each problem solved becomes evidence that future problems can also be handled. Mistakes become less threatening when the owner sees them as part of the process. Adaptability is essential because the business environment will continue changing. Tools, platforms, customer expectations, and economic conditions may all shift. A rigid company can become trapped by methods that once worked. A company of one remains connected to its purpose, while remaining flexible about the method. The owner may change how a product is delivered without changing the problem it solves. They may reach customers through a new platform while preserving the values of the business. Curiosity supports this flexibility. A curious entrepreneur does not assume that current knowledge is enough. They ask why customers behave in certain ways, why a process feels difficult, and whether a better approach exists. Curiosity also protects against arrogance. Success can create the belief that past decisions will continue working forever, but markets do not reward history alone. The business must keep paying attention. At the same time, adaptability does not mean chasing every trend. Constantly changing direction can weaken the company. The owner must distinguish between meaningful shifts and temporary excitement. This requires patience and observation. A new tool may look impressive but create little value. A popular strategy may not suit the business's customers. The company of one tests carefully before committing. Protecting independence also requires financial discipline. Personal freedom becomes difficult when the owner's lifestyle depends on ever-increasing income. High personal expenses can create the same pressure as high business overhead. If every increase in profit leads to a permanent increase in spending, the owner remains trapped in the need to earn more. Defining enough applies to personal life as much as business. Maintaining a reasonable gap between income and spending creates options. The owner can take time to develop a new product, recover from illness, leave a difficult client, or reduce working hours. Freedom often comes from needing less, not merely earning more. This does not require rejecting comfort. It means understanding which expenses genuinely improve life and which ones create obligations. Discipline is also needed to protect time. Independence can disappear when the owner says yes to every request. Without a manager setting limits, the entrepreneur must create those limits personally. This may mean deciding when a workday ends, how many projects can be accepted, or how quickly messages will be answered. These boundaries can feel restrictive, but they preserve the freedom the business was intended to create. Long-term independence also depends on identity. When a person connects their entire self-worth to business, every setback becomes personal. A slow month feels like failure, and criticism to work feels like criticism to the individual. Jarvis encourages a healthier relationship. The business is important, but it is not the whole person. Life also includes relationships, health, interests, and experiences unrelated to work. This separation supports better decisions. An owner who does not need the business to prove personal value can evaluate opportunities more calmly. They can reject growth that creates status but weakens life. The final purpose of independence is not to avoid effort. Meaningful work may still be demanding. The difference is that the effort is chosen and directed. A company of one gives the owner the ability to decide what is worth pursuing. It creates room to improve without automatically expanding, to test ideas without risking everything, and to learn without surrendering control. The business becomes an instrument rather than an identity or a prison. It supports financial needs, creative goals, and personal priorities, while remaining flexible enough to evolve. This requires continuous attention because complexity can return gradually. A new opportunity becomes a permanent service. A temporary expense becomes a fixed commitment. A few extra hours become the normal schedule. The owner must periodically step back and ask whether the business still fits the life it was designed to support. If the answer is no, simplification may be necessary. That ongoing evaluation is one of the strongest forms of discipline. It prevents success from quietly becoming another source of dissatisfaction. The company of one philosophy ultimately presents independence as a practice rather than a final achievement. Freedom is protected through daily decisions about customers, expenses, time, growth, and responsibility. A calm and durable business does not appear by accident. It is built by repeatedly choosing better over bigger, evidence over assumption, and enough over endless expansion. The final message of this philosophy is that a business should be judged by the life it creates, not merely by the size it reaches. Revenue, employees, market share, and public recognition can all be useful measurements, but they do not reveal whether the owner feels free, secure, healthy, or satisfied. A company may look successful from the outside while demanding more time, energy, and sacrifice than its owner ever intended to give. Paul Jarvis brings the discussion back to a simple question: what is the business for? If the answer is unclear, the company can easily begin following goals chosen by other people. It may pursue expansion because competitors are expanding, hire because successful companies appear to have large teams, or chase investors because funding creates attention. Each decision may seem reasonable on its own, yet together they can build a business that no longer reflects the owner's original purpose. A company of one begins by defining that purpose clearly. The business may exist to provide financial security, meaningful work, control over time, or the ability to live in a particular place. It may support a family, fund creative interests, or offer an alternative to traditional employment. The purpose could be ambitious, but it must be personal and specific enough to guide decisions. Once the purpose is clear, opportunities can be evaluated more intelligently. Instead of asking whether an opportunity can increase revenue, the owner can ask what else it will change. Will it require more working hours? Will it reduce flexibility? Will it create dependence on a single client, platform, or investor? Will it improve the customer experience, or simply increase the amount of work? These questions do not eliminate ambition. They make ambition more precise. The goal is no longer to collect every possible opportunity. It is to select the opportunities that strengthen the business without weakening the life around it. This is especially important because successful businesses naturally attract more possibilities. A respected consultant may be offered larger contracts. A popular product may create demand for new versions. A growing audience may invite partnerships, speaking engagements, or additional services. Success can create as much distraction as failure. The owner must remember that an attractive opportunity can still be wrong. Money is only one part of its value. A project that pays well but creates months of stress may be less useful than a smaller project that fits the company's strengths. A partnership that increases visibility may not be worthwhile if it reduces control. A new product may generate sales but require ongoing support the owner does not want to provide. The discipline to refuse unsuitable growth protects the business from becoming scattered. Every yes creates obligations. It takes time, attention, and energy away from something else. Saying no is therefore not a rejection of progress. It is a way of preserving focus. A company of one must also understand its capacity. Capacity is not only the number of hours available. It includes mental energy, creative focus, emotional patience, and the ability to deliver work at a high standard. A schedule may technically contain space for another project, but that does not mean the owner can accept it without reducing quality elsewhere. Respecting capacity helps prevent a common business cycle. The owner becomes busy, accepts more work, feels overwhelmed, hires quickly, raises expenses, and then must accept even more work to support the larger structure. What began as temporary demand becomes permanent pressure. An intentional business responds differently. It may raise prices, create a waiting list, narrow the offer, or improve its process. It may decide that limited availability is part of the model rather than a problem that must always be solved. Scarcity can even strengthen positioning when it reflects genuine limits. Customers often value access to someone who is selective and focused. This does not mean creating false urgency or pretending to be unavailable. It means recognizing that careful work has natural boundaries. The business should not apologize for those boundaries. A smaller number of well-served customers can create more profit and stronger relationships than a larger number of poorly served ones. The company becomes known for consistency rather than volume. Defining enough is central to maintaining these limits. Without a clear financial and personal target, every increase in income can create a new expectation. A good year becomes a minimum for the next year. A larger client becomes a standard for future projects. The owner may begin working harder simply to preserve a level of growth that was never necessary. Enough is not a fixed number for everyone. It depends on expenses, goals, responsibilities, and preferred lifestyle. The important step is identifying it consciously. The owner should understand how much the business needs to earn, how much profit is required, how many hours they want work, and what level of risk they are willing to carry. This clarity creates a stopping point. Once the business reaches a healthy level, the next step does not have to be expansion. The owner may choose to improve quality, reduce hours, build savings, strengthen systems, or spend more time outside work. This is one of the most unusual lessons in the book, because business culture rarely celebrates stopping. It celebrates the next milestone. Yet a person who never decides what is sufficient may spend an entire career pursuing a finish line that continually moves. The idea of enough also protects against lifestyle inflation. When business income rises, personal expenses often rise with it. A larger home, more expensive possessions, and higher monthly commitments may appear to reward success, but they also increase the amount the business must earn. If the owner becomes dependent on constant high income, freedom decreases. They may feel unable to leave difficult clients, reduce workload, or experiment with new direction. The lifestyle begins controlling the business. Keeping personal commitments reasonable creates flexibility. It allows the owner to make decisions based on values instead of financial fear. This does not require rejecting comfort or enjoyment. It requires understanding that every permanent expense reduces future options. The company of one model treats options as a form of wealth. The ability to take time off, change direction, decline a project, or survive a slow period may be more valuable than a larger public revenue figure. Options give the owner control. Profit supports those options. Revenue may attract attention, but profit provides stability. A business that earns less and keeps more may offer greater freedom than one that earns impressive amounts while spending almost everything. This is why the owner must understand the financial reality of the company. They should know which offers are profitable, which customers require excessive effort, and which expenses create meaningful returns. Financial clarity prevents the business from confusing motion with progress. The same clarity should be applied to time. Some activities may produce income but consume so much attention that they weaken the rest of the company. Others may not generate immediate revenue but strengthen customer trust or improve future efficiency. The goal is not to reduce every decision to a number. It is to understand the trade-offs. A company of one makes these trade-offs deliberately rather than discovering them after becoming overwhelmed. Relationships remain essential throughout this process. A calm business is not an isolated one. It depends on customers, collaborators, mentors, suppliers, and communities. Remaining small does not mean doing everything alone. The difference is that support is added carefully. The owner may work with contractors, specialists, or partners when their contribution improves the result. But the company avoids building unnecessary hierarchy. A flexible network can often provide expertise without creating permanent overhead. A designer may collaborate with a developer for a specific project. A consultant may hire administrative help for a busy period. A product creator may work with customer support specialists when demand rises. This approach preserves adaptability. The business gains help where needed without automatically turning every temporary challenge into a permanent expansion. However, outsourcing should never remove responsibility. The owner remains accountable for the customer experience and the quality of the work. They must choose collaborators carefully, communicate expectations, and understand enough to evaluate the result. Responsibility is one of the deeper themes of the company of one mindset. Independence can sound like complete freedom, but it also means accepting the consequences of decisions. The owner cannot always blame a manager, investor, or department. They must learn, adjust, and make difficult choices. This responsibility becomes easier when the business is aligned with personal values. Hard work feels different when it supports a chosen direction. Challenges remain, but they are connected to something meaningful. The book does not promise a life without stress. Clients may still leave, products may fail, markets may shift, technology may change the way work is done. The purpose of staying small is not to eliminate uncertainty, but to remain flexible enough to respond. A resilient company at one expects change. It keeps costs manageable, maintains useful skills, listens to customers, and avoids becoming dependent on a single method. It does not assume that today's success guarantees tomorrow's stability. At the same time, the owner should not live in constant fear. Preparation creates calm when it is practical rather than obsessive. Financial reserves, clear systems, diverse relationships, and ongoing learning provide a reasonable level of protection. This calmness allows better decisions. Fear encourages short-term thinking. It pushes businesses to accept unsuitable clients, lower prices, follow trends, and make promises they cannot keep. Stability creates the space to think beyond the next payment. A business that serves life also protects health and relationships. Work can easily expand into every available hour, especially when technology makes the owner permanently reachable. The boundary between personal life and business disappears unless it is created intentionally. The owner may decide on specific working hours, communication windows, or days without client work. They may design processes that allow time away without creating confusion. These choices should be treated as part of business strategy, not as rewards that become available only after every task is complete. There will always be more work. Waiting until the business is completely finished before resting means rest will never arrive. Sustainable performance requires recovery, perspective, and experiences outside work. Time away can also improve the business. Distance allows the owner to notice problems that were hidden by daily activity. New ideas often appear when attention is not fully occupied. Rest protects judgment and creativity. A company of one, therefore, considers quality of life a legitimate business result. The company is not separate from the person operating it. If the business consistently damages health, relationships, or peace of mind, its financial success cannot fully compensate for that cost. This perspective leads to a broader definition of achievement. Success may mean earning enough while maintaining a flexible schedule. It may mean serving a small group of customers exceptionally well. It may mean working independently, employing a few trusted people, or creating products that generate stable income without constant promotion. No single version is correct. The company of one approach is not a rigid formula. It is a way of questioning assumptions and choosing a structure that fits. For some owners, growth may genuinely improve the business and their lives. They may enjoy leading teams, building systems, or entering new markets. The lesson is not that everyone should remain alone. It is that expansion should be chosen consciously. The company of one mindset can exist inside a larger company as well. A small team can operate independently, stay close to its customers, and resist unnecessary bureaucracy. An employee can think like a company of one by developing useful skills, managing resources carefully, and focusing on value rather than status. The philosophy is ultimately about responsibility, clarity, and self-direction. It asks people to stop following growth as an automatic rule and begin deciding what progress means for them. The most meaningful business may not be the one that reaches the largest audience. It may be the one that consistently supports the owner, treats customers well, produces useful work, and survives without demanding endless sacrifice. That kind of company may appear modest, but its strength lies in its design. It can move quickly, communicate personally, adapt carefully, and remain close to its purpose. It does not need to become enormous to create valuable results. The final lesson is that better is a more useful goal than bigger. Better can mean stronger relationships, clearer systems, healthier profit, deeper expertise, fewer distractions, and more control over time. Better has direction. Bigger only has size. A calm business is built when the owner understands what enough looks like and has a discipline to protect it. It grows where growth is useful and stops where expansion would reduce value. It remains open to change without allowing every opportunity to control its direction. This requires repeated evaluation. The business that fit the owner's life 3 years ago may no longer fit today. Responsibilities change, interests develop, and personal priorities shift. The company should be flexible enough to change with them. From time to time, the owner should ask whether the business still serves its intended purpose. Does it provide the desired level of income? Is the workload sustainable? Are the customers a good fit? Does the work remain meaningful? Has complexity entered areas where simplicity once existed? These questions keep the business honest. They prevent old decisions from becoming permanent merely because they are familiar. The company of one is therefore not a destination reached once and preserved forever. It is a practice of choosing intentionally. Each new client, expense, product, partnership, and commitment offers another chance to decide whether the company will remain aligned. In the end, Paul Jarvis offers a different vision of entrepreneurship. It is not a race toward the largest possible organization. It is the process of creating useful work on terms that remain sustainable. The business should generate income, but it should also create options. It should serve customers, but it should not require the owner to abandon every other part of life. It should improve over time, but improvement does not always require expansion. The deepest value of this philosophy is permission. It gives entrepreneurs permission to remain small, to reject opportunities, to define enough, and to build a company that outsiders may not consider impressive. It replaces a pressure to follow a standard path with a responsibility to create a personal one. That path still requires courage. It can be difficult to watch competitors announce larger teams and higher revenue without feeling behind. It takes confidence to measure success privately rather than through public comparison. But the reward is a business that belongs to the owner in more than a legal sense. Its goals, structure, schedule, and direction reflect deliberate choices. The company becomes a tool for living rather than a system that demands to be fed endlessly. The message of the book can be reduced to one powerful idea. You do not have to build the biggest business you are capable of building. You can build the business that is right for you. That may mean fewer customers, a smaller team, a simpler offer, or a lower revenue figure than someone else. But if the business is profitable, resilient, useful, and aligned with your life, then it has succeeded. There is no prize for creating complexity you never wanted. There is no meaningful victory in reaching a larger scale while losing control of your time. Growth only matters when it supports something worth growing toward. A company of one chooses that destination before beginning the journey. It knows what enough looks like, understands whom it serves, protects its independence, and improves with purpose. And when the business reaches a point where it provides stability, freedom, meaningful work, and strong relationships, the owner does not have to apologize for stopping there. Sometimes the wisest form of growth is knowing when you already have enough. Let's bring this back to the two owners from the beginning. The first owner was not building wealth. He was building pressure. His growth was not serving him. He was serving his growth. The second owner was building something quieter, but far stronger. She was building a company of one. Here are the 3 core lessons to take with you. Lesson 1. Growth is a tool, not a goal. Only expand when expansion truly supports your own goals and the people you serve. Growth for its own sake can pull you away from the exact reasons you started in the first place. Lesson 2. Evidence beats encouragement. Friends and family will tell you your idea is good. That feels nice, but it proves nothing. Real proof is when a stranger pulls out their wallet and pays. Build your confidence on payment, not on compliments. Lesson 3. Define your own enough. Enough is not laziness. Enough is a target. It might be stability. It might be freedom. It might be meaningful work and strong relationships. Once your business gives you that, you do not have to apologize for choosing to stop there. Real wealth is not always the biggest number on a screen. Sometimes it is a business and a life that you actually want to keep living inside of. So here is a question for you. If your income stopped growing today, but your freedom, your health, and your relationships all improved, would you call that a win or a failure? Write your answer in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this video helped you see wealth a little differently, subscribe to Wealth Simplified. We break down real books, real case studies, and real strategies for building long-term wealth every single week. See you in the next one.